Assassin's Creed has been evolving as a game and a franchise since they first decided to make a second game. You could even argue that 15 years ago was the beginning of a long trajectory of changes and iterations. Whether or not you have agreed with or liked those changes is beside the point. Assassin's Creed has never been about stagnation or staying still. You could, though, make the case that AC Revelations felt more like a more of the same type of game, but it's difficult to say that about the rest of the Assassin's Creed games. Even the first AC, followed by AC2, and then Brotherhood, moving into Assassin's Creed 3, they changed a bunch. They introduced new combat, they added ship combat, and then Black Flag laid the groundwork, not just for more ship combat, but opening up the world to be much larger. Now, this was followed by Assassin's Creed Unity, which is infamously known as its launch bugs and weird faces, but it's aged very well. The community now claims it is one of the best parkour, stealth, and open-world experiences in the Assassin's Creed franchise. And then, AC Syndicate introduced the idea of having a playable female character alongside of her brother, both featuring different playstyles and skill trees. Now, all of this set the stage for the major evolutionary turn with Assassin's Creed Origins, which some see as a bit of a soft reboot, since it went back before the first game and it gave a broader foundation for the existence of the Hidden Ones, and it changed the game style to be more of an open-world action RPG rather than a more stealth-focused game. Some even see the subsequent releases of AC Odyssey and Valhalla to almost serve as a trilogy of games in this new style and approach. The animus is largely ignored, and the focus is more on the main playable characters. Now, these three games also focus far more on combat and their own unique style. AC Origins is a bit closer to the older games, with a hand-to-hand focus on parrying or dodging, while Assassin's Creed Odyssey utilizes big Spartan abilities like kicks or jumping spear thrusts. And AC Valhalla, in keeping with the Viking theme, has more visceral, violent, and brutal combat than all of its predecessors. All of this set the trajectory for two things to happen. AC Mirage launched as a love letter to those looking for a more classic approach to Assassin's Creed, and Assassin's Creed will finally head to Japan in Assassin's Creed Shadows. But AC Shadows is already on the receiving end of a lot of hate, and while some may hope to see that its sales will be diminished because of this, the contrary seems to be happening. Now, every weekday here on Reforge Gaming, I tell you what I think about a gaming topic, and then we go to a live stream where I get to hear what you think. So if you want more content like this, be sure to hit subscribe. And in this video, first I want to look at the criticism of the characters. This is mainly centering around the male lead character Yasuke, and I will do my best to show how unmerited this is in light of the game's history. Now, second, I will look at the pricing criticism. Ubisoft is not new to this territory, as similar things were said when Star Wars Outlaws had its pricing structure revealed. But the question will be, are they out of step with the market, or are some gamers simply stuck in the past? Now, lastly, I will give you my conclusion on all of this. We're going to look at the sales trajectory of the entire franchise to show you just how successful the shift to Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla has been. But also, we're going to look at the sales as they're starting out for Assassin's Creed Shadows. And we're going to ask, is the hate for this game hurting it or helping it? When delving into criticism about the characters in AC Shadows, it can be easy to fall into a presumptive ditch. On one side, you could presume that Ubisoft is making a stupid, pandering, or woke decision, and on the other side, you could just assume that the people who are upset about this decision to have a black samurai, well, you would just assume they're hateful people. I think it's easier to approach this from a contextual perspective. First, I think it is fair to push back against inauthentic or forced diversity. It could certainly harm a story, and it does come from a place of cheap pandering. So, if I ask the question, does Yasuke, the male lead protagonist in AC Shadows, does he fall into this category? And I have to say that in light of all of the research many have done into the history and the person known as Yasuke, I don't think you can make a compelling case that this is a cheap, inauthentic form of pandering, especially considering if you go to a historical time and you want to pick a unique character to play as, a black man who served as one of the most feared, or served with one of the most feared and respected samurais of the time, I think that's a pretty interesting character. Now, many might push back and cry foul about historical accuracy or claim he wasn't a real samurai. Plenty have weighed in on this, pointing out that he would have been considered a samurai, and it was also reported that he was an incredibly strong warrior. Beyond that, Assassin's Creed games have functioned more like historical tourism than playable encyclopedias. Many were quick to point out that you fight the Pope in one of the games and he's a wizard. And then there's DLC for Assassin's Creed 3 that has George Washington functioning as a king. So I don't think historical accuracy as an angle has a lot of substance or merit. Not just because of how the game has been treated up to now with respect to history, but also because Yasuke is a historical person, which, irony, he's going to be the first protagonist to actually be based on a historical person, making the historical arc accuracy criticism look even more flimsy. And to those who would say that, well, they want to play an Assassin's Creed game in Japan and play as an indigenous person from the region, well, you can. The female protagonist, Naoe, is a shinobi, or a ninja. Ninjas have basically no real historical evidence or merit. There's myths, there's legends, there's rumors, but we actually have very perfect ground for a hidden one to be a female shinobi or a kunoichi. This is a 17th century thing, right? There's a 17th century handbook, and it describes a technique called kunoichi no jutsu. Now, this is a woman that was used for infiltration and information gathering. This sounds perfect for Assassin's Creed. And to those who say things like, well, how could a woman take on 3 enemies at once? Every Assassin's Creed sets up scenarios where the main character would likely die, if we're going for realism. Taking on multiple armed enemies would result in basically even the most skilled warrior dying or being severely maimed. The entire fantasy of Assassin's Creed is that you can take on multiple targets, you're parrying, dodging, you're blocking things that are coming from behind, and you move like a deadly shadow. And the smaller frame that women often have would be perfect for a ninja or a stealthy assassin. It's the perfect antithesis to a big, bulky warrior. So I find all the anger and criticism about the characters to largely be unfounded, and it's not really worthy of any more serious consideration. But I do want to say one more thing about this. In March of 2023, Insider Gaming reported about the characters in AC Shadows. At the time, it was known as AC Red. Now, they had the roles backwards. They thought the female character would be the samurai, and the male character would be the shinobi. But we knew as early as March of 2023 that one of the playable characters was going to be an African refugee. And the interesting thing is, nobody complained or even cared at the time. This is why I said it's helpful to look at this from a contextual perspective. I believe all the outrage and the concern in recent months about diversity in games and consulting firms that are allegedly trying to ruin games, I think it has everyone on edge and overreacting to something that just a year ago didn't even register a single blip of complaint. You also have to consider that with AC Shadows launching at the end of 2024, it was likely scoped out and in production since maybe even 2019, which actually earlier than that. A LinkedIn profile of a developer at Ubisoft Quebec states they've been developing AC Shadows since October of 2018. Do you really think that 6 years ago they made the decision to do this thing that suddenly is a on watch for element in 2024? Again, I don't find any evidence of this being an instance of pushing an agenda or a message. It's just a cool historical person that's going to make for a great juxtaposition against a Japanese assassin. And as you will see later in this video, the market is sending a loud and clear message about just how much they care about all of this. But it wouldn't really be a Ubisoft game if we weren't debating the pricing, the pre-order bonuses, or the drive to get consumers to sign up for Ubisoft Plus. While I certainly could understand folks bristling at seeing $129 for a game, the devil is always in the details. The base game of Assassin's Creed Shadows is $70, which that's now the standard price for big AAA games, and the Gold Edition is $40 more at $110, and it comes with early access and the Season Pass, which gives you 2 story DLCs. This is an incredibly common practice to sell a pass of sorts to get 2 DLCs for $40. I could understand folks being irritated at putting early access behind this price threshold, but it's a perk. And perks like getting something early, well, they tend to cost money. If you want your package to show up faster, you pay for more shipping. Early screenings of movies or wanting to board your plane first, All of these things cost money. Convenience and luxury aren't free. And if you don't like it, the simple response would be just get the standard edition for $70. The creative director indicated in an interview that this game will be roughly the same size as AC Origins. If a game that size is not worth the full price purchase, then you can wait for a sale or skip it altogether. Now, I will agree that the $20 to bump up to the Ultimate Edition seems like a complete waste. It's cosmetics, it's gear and weapon sets, and 5 skill points. Nothing there seems like a must-have, and typically pre-order items or Ultimate Edition items, they're quickly discarded, and I don't like the idea of buying skill points, so the Gold Edition, to me, seems like the best bang for my buck. I anticipate actually enjoying this game. Assassin's Creed Origins is my favorite in the franchise, and Ghost of Tsushima is one of my all-time favorite games. I kind of see this game landing in the perfect lane for me. And your best course of action, if you don't like the pricing, is, well, don't buy any of it. But you probably aren't going to like what you see as we move into my conclusion about all of this. A quick look at the sales trajectory of the Assassin's Creed franchise proves 2 things. First, the pivot to changing the game with AC Origins was a good decision from a commercial standpoint. A clear increase in sales can be seen starting with Origins, it goes up with Odyssey, and it hits an all-new higher peak with Valhalla. And based on the early reports about Assassin's Creed Shadows, it's likely to unseat AC Valhalla. Fans of Assassin's Creed have been waiting to head to Japan, and the choice of lead characters and the pricing just does not seem to be getting in this game's way. According to a screenshot posted on Reddit, AC Shadows jumped to the #1 spot on Amazon Japan, and the careful observer will notice that 4 different versions of the game are in the top 16 spots on Amazon Japan. The Collector's Edition is sitting at number 4, and the Gold and the Ultimate Editions are landing in 7 and 12. If you combined all of these into one, it wouldn't just be the #1 spot, which that's where the base game is located. It would likely stay in the #1 spot for quite a while. So it goes without saying, this game is already popular and it's doing well from a sales perspective. Now that doesn't mean the game's going to be good. It doesn't mean it's going to win awards, but it certainly communicates a handful of things. First, all the bluster and drama and debating about the characters or the game being woke, well, the rest of the gaming world is paying little to no attention to any of that. It also shows that they don't seem to care about what many were claiming of this is just vital importance and historical accuracy. The public doesn't seem to care. Now, it's fine if those things are important to you, but ironically, that makes you the minority. Secondly, this shows that consumers don't seem to be bothered by pricing structures like $70 for the base game and $40 for 2 DLCs being an extra season pass. This isn't the first time that a game had planned DLC and was criticized, and it probably won't be the last. But obviously, the market is communicating that this is an acceptable practice. Which brings me to my conclusion. You are completely in your right to disagree with the decisions of a game or their pricing approach. But if the market and the consumers are supporting it, businesses would be negligent and foolish to not continue with these practices. And to those who are worried that diversity is just going to ruin games, well, the market will take care of this. If consulting firms are leading games down a dumb path of pandering or bad storytelling, well, that'll fix itself. These alleged games that you're thinking about, well, they'll flop, and then the consulting firms and their input will be rejected in the future. But by and large, I don't see evidence of this happening in the gaming world, and I certainly don't see this in Assassin's Creed Shadows. And as far as I can tell, the hate and the criticism is helping this game. It's not hurting it. But those are just my thoughts. And now it's time to hear your thoughts, and you can do that in a comment below, or you can come to the live stream that follows this with a card right here. There'll also be a pinned comment below. And if you like this video and you want more like it, please like, share, and subscribe.